I'm Haley Wynn.
And I'm Malia Moore.
And we are doing a feasibility study on Park City, Utah. We also had some people help us, Nicole and Ilyana, but they are not here to film with us today. So just a quick overview of the table of contents. We're going to go over the project, the development costs, market performance overview, comparable hotels, demand generators, economic performance of the market, market supply, proposed hotels KPI, proposed hotels revenue and expenses, feasibility of proposed hotel. So for this project, we are proposing a Hyatt Paradise in Park City. And this is a full-service luxury resort. Obviously, the Hyatt, we're thinking 387 rooms with 25,000 square feet of meeting space. It's a full-service luxury ski and conference resort. There will be a restaurant seating up to 240 people in capacity. Some of the amenities include fine dining restaurants, slopeside lounge and bar, private dining rooms for groups, outdoor heated patio seating. Menus, they are driven by our chefs, wine cellars, room service, food and beverage accessible while you're skiing, and the overall square footage is 290,000 square feet. So we went over the property name, we have the location, the gross square feet per room is 750, meaning the gross square footage is 290,250, and then the food and beverage is 25,000. We are projecting a 3% inflation with inflation factor of 1.03. Base year is this year, 2025. Our projection year is 2026, and the year we open is 2028. So the property location is Park City, Utah. In this feasibility study, we will focus on the specific area where this hotel is planned to be, where we can identify the comparable properties and the demand generators. This market located in Park City stretches over 6 acres of land in Utah. So over here on the right, we have our sources and uses of funds. When it comes to debt versus equity, we are thinking 60% debt and 40% equity. A lot of those use of the funds, the majority of them, 55.1% of them, are total hard costs. Then after that, we have 16.1% of total soft costs. 9.6% of these funds will be used for total furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Total financing costs of 10.2%. And lastly, the total acquisition costs of 9%. So we are projecting a 6% LTC to execute this project, which seems reasonable for this project. Because this is a luxury hotel, we are evaluating and anticipating a higher LTC, so that's just expected. We're thinking of accessing an interest rate of 8.5, having an origination fee of 1%, average percent drawn of 50%. The years of construction will take 2 years, and then we have the loan amount and the loan amount key. So the properties and rooms by submarket, there are a couple areas around Park City that we consider: Park City itself, Midway, Heber, and Wanship. And Heber City and Midway aren't considered for properties just because of their location and distance, as well as a lot of those hotels aren't luxury. So most of the ones that are comparable in our properties are obviously in Park City, which are luxury hotels that they have there. So properties and rooms by class, we have economy, luxury, mid-scale, upper upscale, and we got our grand total for census properties of 54, census rooms 5,514, sample properties 15, and sample rooms 2,945. So Park City market key stats, this is based on running data ending in December 2024, supply, demand, and revenue are annualized. So there's 9 hotels that we're looking at. In total, all of those rooms are 1,400, which times 365, which is your room supply, 532,535. So our room demand is 210,000, the occupancy 39%, the ADR $927, the RevPAR $454, and the room revenue $195 million. So this is the Park City market occupancy, supply, and demand based on the 12-month rolling average, and this is the actual. So the occupancy drops drastically during COVID, which is to be expected. The next few years, it begins to climb back. Demand is, of course, always lower than supply, and we can see that here. And we can see that between 2021 and 2024, our supply is increasing, and also our supply decreased during the time of COVID, which is also to be expected. So the room market share by submarket and class, all of it was Park City. So instead of doing the submarket, we did the MSA, which is Heber and Summit Plus. The ones that will be most pertinent to us are luxury, which are 33%, but we need to recognize that there's 2% in economy. For mid-scale, there's 4%, upper mid-scale is 17%, upper upscale is 5%, and upscale is 9%. So this is the Park City actual and percent change for ADR and occupancy. Occupancy dips drastically in 2020, which again is expected. ADR rates dipped in 2024, which was surprising to me. Despite a decline in occupancy in COVID, ADR has steadily increased for the past 7 years, probably due to tuition. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here we have the actual occupancy and ADR weekday versus weekend. The slides show that both occupancy and ADR fluctuate between day of the week. On the top left, we see that the occupancy is lowest on Sundays, and then it gradually increases during the week, where its peak is Fridays and Saturdays. And then on the right, it shows that ADR follows that similar pattern, and the weekend rates are noticeably higher than the weekday, probably because of short leisure trips or related demand. And then the bottom 2 charts show the weekly progression. So ADR gradually increases as the week goes on, and then occupancy follows the same upward trend. These just came from the Park City is primarily as a leisure and weekend-driven market. Go to the next one. And then Park City actual supply and demand. You can see how the supply and demand has moved over time. Steadily increased from 2017 and then dipped in 2020 due to COVID, and then steadily started to increase back in 2024. And because we didn't have all of the financials for 2025, you can see it kind of just dips off there again. As for Park City luxury class, actual ADR occupancy, this slide isolates the luxury segment. You can see it crashed significantly in 2020 and 2021 due to COVID. And then after that, it rebounds. So you can see it stabilized again and moving forward. Okay, comparable hotels, we have our proposed hotel, which is Hyatt Paradise Park City, and then we have some of our comparable hotels such as the St. Erickson, Golden Hirsch, St. Regis, Waldorf, Victoria, Henry Park City, Montage, and the Wanship Blue Sky, and Grand Summit Hotel, which is a rock resort. And most of these are Park City, except for Blue Sky, which is Wanship. And then here is our map, just kind of shows the proximity. Most of them are all pretty close together, except for Wanship Blue Sky, which is pretty far away from the rest. Comparing our hotel keys, we have key counts across all of the comparable hotels. The Grand Hyatt Deer Valley stands out with the most number of rooms, and it's significantly bigger property than the other hotels. Most of them usually range between 4 to 2. That shows that Park City has a luxury market, and it's mostly dominated by mid-sized boutique luxury hotels. For our comparable occupancy, this chart compares occupancy for the concept versus the projected occupancy of our property. So the blue line, which is the market comparable occupancy, recovers quickly after COVID and then reaches about 60 to 70% going forward. The red line, which is the property's projected occupancy rate, it starts lower, but then it gradually increases. And this is kind of our forecast. We're just kind of conservatively forecasting the ramp up for the new property as it enters the established luxury market. For comparable ADR, it shows a transfer of the comparable luxury hotels versus our projected ADR, and these are a lot closer than occupancy. So the blue line rebounds after 2020 again, and it continues in that upward trend. And our projected ADR follows slightly below, but then increases to stay competitive with the market and to keep up with pricing as well. But overall, the concept should support the high luxury ADR levels and validate our pricing strategy. We have our demand generators, business and events. We have the Hyatt Paradise Festival, which is a festival that includes Martin River and popular music. These can typically be inside the venue or outdoor, and they're typically held during the summer, but a lot of people do come for this specific festival in Park City. And then on Sundays during the summer into September, they do have the Park City Sunday Market where it's family friendly and people can come and it's kind of like a farmer's market. There's food, local vendors, crafts, just kind of get to see what Utah has to offer. And then one of the most popular that I didn't even know about was the Autumn Aloft Hot Air Balloon Festival. And this features many hot air balloons that take off together in the fall and then they all land together in the evening. It's just a popular spot for tourists. For leisure and recreation, there is a high demand for ski resorts. The Hyatt is a ski-only luxury resort, and it has lots of groomed, great runs. And then there's other resorts that have the snowboarding and skiing. There's bike parks that Park City has to offer, specifically ones that have bike lifts. You have to go up the mountain, and then you can just ride down. And there's tons of popular hiking areas as well. One of the most popular alpine lake hikes is the Bloods Lake and Lac-Waxen Trail, which just has a nice lake environment and it's kind of unique for summer. And then Park also has tons of golf courses, but in specific, the Canyons Golf Course. It's a beautiful mountain golf course. It's integrated into the terrain of the mountain, which is kind of cool and unique. And then it just kind of changes elevation. There's tons of scenic views and some challenging holes. As for dining and entertainment, we have the High West Distillery and Saloon, which is one of Utah's first legal distilleries since the Prohibition. And right now they offer Western cuisine with whiskey tastings, craft cocktails. You can ski in during the winter, so you don't have to take off your ski gear. You can just throw right up there. We also have River Force Landing, which is also one of Utah's premier fine dining establishments. They also do music as well. They have live music and a very sophisticated mountain atmosphere. And then we have the Cabin, which is a nightlife and entertainment that has DJs, concerts, theme nights, and private events. And then the last one is the Grappa. It's a romantic hillside Italian restaurant. It has award-winning wine lists and scenic decks, and it's very popular for special occasions, especially for Sundance private buyouts. Now for our economic performance of the market, we have Park City demand percentage. And this slide basically just breaks down Park City's demand mix. It highlights what share of demand comes across in different travel segments, for example, like leisure, food, business. And then it operates primarily on leisure-heavy markets, and then with those seasonal peaks in the wintertime for skiing. Yeah, it's mostly a luxury ski market for demand. And then our Utah occupancy and ADR, this just shows our long-term occupancy and ADR movement. Occupancy will fluctuate year to year just depending on economic conditions and travel patterns. But ADR is supposed to continue to climb steadily, and fluctuating, which is actually a good thing. And it fluctuates. Okay, for our market growth assumption, this just outlines our assumptions for the future market growth. We assume that there should be steady increases in both demand and ADR based on historical patterns and a continued investment in the market. Our agents create the baseline for projecting our property's performance and are consistent with trends seen in the Park City luxury segment. Park City Utah yearly average. This slide just shows the supply growth over time in Park City. The market has experienced some pretty consistent increases, as you can see. There's been tons of new resorts that have come up, or resorts started to expand their properties. And I think this just confirms that Park City is viewed as a long-term investment area, but also competition is rising because of the investments that are popping up in the area. The demand trends do show that the market is able to absorb new supply, especially in the luxury tier.
Okay, one of these charts are more straightforward and not as much explaining, but here's the property data for Park City and our concept. We have the Lodge at Blue Sky, Stein Eriksen Lodge, Golden Hirsch, the St. Regis, the Montage, Grand Hyatt, Stein Eriksen Residences, Waldorf Astoria, and Pendry Park. They're all in that luxury class just because of the area, and all of the rooms, or none of the rooms break the 50% rule. Okay, and then here's our concept information. On the left, you can see our concept occupancy percentage. It looks like the years didn't transfer over in these, but you can see based on our past charts where that 2021 plummet is, and that's both the concept ADR as well as the occupancy percentage. And those both kind of line up in the sense of growth and depletion. Okay, for our property projected occupancy, all of these were equal in the information that was generated in our Excel sheet. 1.5% projected occupancy, and then the same as the percent change in occupancy, just at that 390 mark. Okay, and then the property projected ADR. Property ADR is projected to grow at a pretty steady rate, as you can see. And then the percent change in ADR with those years is projected to decrease a bit there. Okay, proposed hotels, great. Okay, this is our estimated revenue for all of the years. You can take a look at that. Rooms, food and beverage, other operated apartments, rentals, and other income, and then our total for each year, which is looking to be a steady growth as well. Okay, estimated expenses, year 1 through 6, departmental expenses and everything like that, as well as our total departmental expenses. Sorry, there's not too much reading I can do. It's a lot of just tedious numbers, huh? But okay, yearly fees as a percentage of revenue. So this is that last slide, and then we're going to take a look at what the percentage is based off of all of the earnings. So that percentage looks to increase and decreases fairly and stays pretty consistent throughout all 6 years. And this one wasn't mine. Sorry. Oh, sorry. So this kind of shows what each departmental cost is going to be. Most of it is going to be under food and beverage for the beginning. That's going to climb with like the room, but undistributed expenses, most of them are held at administrative and sales and marketing. This is really important because sales and marketing is what's going to help our hotel climb and occupancy and ADR. And then the administrative is going to kind of keep everything in line for projection of having the room set at a certain level and at a certain occupancy. And then here we have the total revenue and expenses. We're trying to keep it as low as possible just because we are still climbing up in our net profits. So as you can see, that kind of climbs up at a gradual pace, and we are kind of making our way into that debt equity ratio of 60-40 to make sure that we are staying in line with that. And then we have the net operating income of each year gradually rising, even though we do see the revenue drop a bit on year 4. That's when we really see a lot of climbs on our net operating income. And then here we have our 6-year performance summary. This just shows a little more detail about our total revenue and our net operating income. We're really trying to get our net operating income as high as it can possibly be, just to kind of dig into that 60-40 ratio. And then we have the feasibility of the high paradise renovation. This kind of just goes into detail further on those net operating incomes. And you do see that our net cash flow on year 0 is kind of at that negative number. And then gradually we kind of dip into by year 6, making an actual profit that we can keep from the net operating income rather than digging into the debt equity ratio. And this is kind of just a summary of that. We have our total projected cost and then the total net cash flow. This is a really important difference as our net cash flow is much, much higher than the projected cost. And that's how it is going to be for the first few years. And this is a really good place to be set at, as well as our 68% and the payback period of 1.2 is actually incredible for Park City and for us to already see a return on our investment. And so it's definitely highly feasible. And that's it.